Here's a question that is genuinely fascinating. How did Christianity, starting from a tiny, poor backwater of the Roman Empire, with no money, no influence, and no political power, grow to become half of the entire Roman Empire in just 3 centuries? No social media, no big budget, and no government backing. In fact, quite the opposite. For the first 300 years, Christians were persecuted by the government. They lost their businesses, their homes, their freedom, and sometimes their lives. So how did they do it? A historian called Rodney Stark spent years trying to answer that question. He wasn't a Christian when he started. By the time he finished, he was, because the evidence was so compelling. And his conclusion was this: they grew because they were beautifully different. Not aggressive, not political, not loud, just different, attractively, compelling, counterculturally different. Over 4 weeks, we're going to look at what made them different, because it's the same thing that can make us different today. In week 1, we start by looking at the big picture. The early Christians were known for their extraordinary generosity, their love for each other, and their willingness to submit to authorities without compromising their faith. Even Emperor Julian, a pagan who hated Christianity, wrote a letter admitting that Christians were feeding not just their own poor, but everyone else's poor too. And he told his pagan priests they needed to copy them. That's a stunning testimony. In week 2, we look at something that feels very relevant to our world right now: their sexual ethic. The Roman world was extraordinarily promiscuous. Faithfulness in marriage was rare. Sexual exploitation was normalized. And into that culture, the Christians brought something radical: monogamy, faithfulness, and the dignity of every person. It wasn't just a rule, it was a completely different vision of what love and commitment could look like, and people noticed. Week 3 is about diversity, and honestly, this one might surprise you. In a world rigidly divided by race, class, and gender, the early church was shockingly, scandalously inclusive. Slave and free, different races and cultures, male and female, rich and poor, sitting at the same table, calling each other family. Galatians 3:28 says, "There is neither Jew nor Gentile, slave nor free, male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus." This isn't a modern idea. It was a 1st century revolution. In week 4, we look at something that cuts right to the heart of how we see human beings. In the Roman world, unwanted babies, especially girls, or babies born with disabilities, were literally left on rubbish dumps to die. It was legal. It was common. The Christians went to those dumps and took the children home. They believed that every life was precious from the very beginning to the very end. And that conviction set them apart from their entire culture. So there it is. 4 weeks and 4 ways the early church was beautifully different. And here's the question for us: are we living like that differently today? Because the same Jesus who called them to be salt and light, who prayed that we would be in the world but not of it, is calling us to do the same thing. Not to be weird, not to be angry, not to be better than everyone else, but to be beautifully different. So join us for Counterculture, and let's discover together what it looks like to be countercultural in the best possible way. Find out more at leadinglightsnetwork.com.